A warm welcome to all of you and thanks again for joining in. I am Arushi and I will be your moderator for today's webinar on Eco-Modulation and Recyclability Assessment Methodology. I'm delighted to lead you through a session filled with exciting insights. Now, we have a very wonderful speaker panel lined up for you. They will be guiding us through eco-modulation and recyclability assessment methodology. So let's take a quick look at our speaker panel for today. Our first speaker is Mr. Abhishek Garg, Chartered Accountant and founder of AA Garg & Co. With 15 plus years of experience in EPR compliance and sustainability advisory, he has helped numerous corporations navigate EPR compliance and implement effective sustainability strategies. Next, we have Mr. Hussain Parpia. He is the Head of Innovation in Sustainability at AA Garg & Co., coming with an experience of 15 plus years in environmental management and sustainability. He is an ISO 14001 EMS lead auditor, ISO 14064 GHG lead verifier, and a certified professional in a carbon footprint by CII. Next up, we have Ms. Ipsita Roy. She's a senior manager at AA Garg & Co. Ipsita has a background in life sciences and environmental sciences, specializing in EPR and waste management. She educates corporates on sustainability and environmental responsibility, focusing on sectors like e-waste, plastics, and batteries. Now, before we begin the session, let's go over a few important guidelines to ensure we have a very smooth session. The meeting will be recorded. Only the discussion would be recorded without attributing to the speakers. And we request you to refrain yourself from spamming or marketing during the session. Q&A session shall be taken in the last and kindly restrict the discussion to the mentioned topic. Please note that all attendees are on mute. For any queries, please use the raise hand feature. The moderator shall unmute and allow to speak in the Q&A round. Kindly introduce yourself and your organization very briefly and then ask your question. In view of time limitations, we would request you to avoid any sort of repetitive questions. Now, you may also please keep entering your queries in the chat box and we shall get back to you. Now, before we start the session, let's have a look at the agenda for today. We will start with the latest updates on Packaging EPR Regulations and we'll cover three major updates. Third, Illustrative Base Fees, Simpler Recycling, and Deposit Return Scheme. Afterwards, we will move to Eco-Modulation and RAM. Towards the end of the session, we will give you a demo of EPR Manage, which is an advanced EPR management platform designed for streamlined packaging, footprint tracking, granular data breakdown, and regulatory compliance. Now, let's begin with the session, and I invite Mr. Hussain Parpia to take the floor. Over to you, Hussain.
Next slide, please. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Before we delve into the main topic, which is Eco-Modulation and Recyclability Assessment Methodology, RAM for short, let's first review the latest updates on Packaging Extended Producer Responsibility. In this session, we will cover key developments, including the third Illustrative Base Fees, Simpler Recycling Regulations, the Deposit Return Scheme. Let's begin. Next slide, please. Let's begin by reviewing the timelines for these key updates. Simpler Recycling in England policy updates were published on the 29th of November 2024, along with business guidance on the same day. This regulation applies across England and comes into effect on 31st of March 2025. The third Illustrative Base Fees was released on 20th of December 2024. These fees apply to all of the UK under the EPR framework. The Deposit Return Scheme regulations were published on 23rd of January 2025, followed by guidance on 27th of January 2025. This scheme will be implemented in England and Northern Ireland starting from 1st of October 2027. Now let's take a deeper look into each of these updates. Next slide, please. DEFRA published a policy update for simpler recycling in England and business guidance on 29th of November 2024. Under these new rules, which take effect from 31st of March 2025, most households and workplaces in England will be required to separate their waste into 4 categories. First, dry recyclable materials. This includes plastics, metals, glass, unless the waste collector allows them to be mixed. Second, paper and cardboard to be collected separately. Third, food waste, including leftovers, expired food, and food preparation waste. And lastly, residual waste, also known as black bin waste, which is non-recyclable or highly contaminated materials. These requirements apply to businesses and non-domestic premises that generate waste similar to household waste. This includes offices and retail stores, hospitality venues such as restaurants and hotels, public institutions such as schools, hospitals, care homes, etc., and charities and places of worship. For micro firms, which is businesses with fewer than 10 employees, compliance is extended until 31st of March 2027. Next slide, please. In this slide, we have the key requirements for businesses under the new simpler recycling regulations. Concerning waste separation and collection, businesses are required to ensure proper waste separation and collection, which is dry recyclables, food waste, and residual black bin waste, must be collected separately. Paper and cardboard must be collected separately from plastic, metals, glass, unless the waste collector permits co-collection. Workplaces generating garden waste must arrange for proper recycling or composting. Concerning finding a waste collector, businesses must contract a licensed waste contractor to collect and process their separated waste. Companies should check the public register of waste carriers to ensure that they are working with a compliant and licensed waste management provider. Concerning legal obligations, businesses must follow waste hierarchy and comply with duty of care regulations, prioritizing waste prevention, reuse, and recycling. Landlords and facility management companies responsible for handling business waste must also ensure compliance. Failure to separate waste correctly may result in non-compliance and a compliance notice from the environmental agency. Concerning enforcement and compliance, from April 2025 onwards, businesses that fail to comply may result in penalties and enforcement action under the Environment Agency's enforcement and sanctions policy. Waste collectors must ensure that separately collected waste remains sorted and is sent for recycling instead of landfill or incineration. Also, non-compliance can be reported by public to the Environment Agency starting April 2025 onwards. Next slide, please. Now let's discuss the third illustrative base fees for 2025-2026. The third release of illustrative base fees provides updates to fee estimates for the first year of EPR implementation in the UK, which is 2025-2026. These fees are charged to obligated packaging producers by the EPR scheme administrator to cover local authority packaging waste management costs. The total local authority disposal costs for 2025 are estimated at pounds 1.5 billion, which is lower than the previously projected pounds 1.8 billion upper scenario. Also, for the first time, the fees are presented as point estimates rather than ranges, offering more precise cost projections. As you can see in the table on the right, the fees for all packaging materials have increased compared to the second illustrative base fees released earlier. This increase reflects a more detailed assessment of waste management costs under the new system. There are some key considerations. First, fees are subject to change based on the updated packaging data submissions by obligated producers in 2025. Second, PAC UK has officially launched on 21st of January 2025 and has been designated as the scheme administrator for UK's Packaging EPR program. Next slide, please. Now, let's take a closer look at the key changes in the third illustrative base fees. First, the use of 2024 RPD data. For the first time, the fees are calculated using the latest 2024 packaging tonnage data submitted by producers. This means adjustments have been made to account for seasonal variations and gaps in the data caused by late or missing submissions. Second, adjustments to fees for specific materials. For example, glass fees have increased because local authority disposal costs have risen by 7%, while reported tonnage are 23% lower than expected. Similarly, the other materials category saw a 36% increase in disposal costs, leading to a significant fee hike. And third, the transition towards modulated fees in 2026. From 2026 onwards, fees will be modulated based on packaging recyclability. This means that packaging that is harder to recycle will face higher fees, while more recyclable materials will benefit from lower costs. Looking at the timetable at the bottom of the slide, you can see that on 1st April 2025, it is a deadline for final data reporting for 2024. July 2025, the final base fees for 2025 will be published based on a complete data set. October 2025, obligated producers will need to report RAM data along with RPD data for the first half of 2025. And then in 2026, modulated fees will be officially coming into effect, making recyclability a key factor in cost determination. Next slide, please. Now, let's take a look at the deposit return scheme. The UK government introduced a deposit return scheme for drinks containers, England and Northern Ireland Regulations 2025, published on 23rd of January 2025, with supporting guidance on 27th of January 2025. Similar schemes will be rolled out in Scotland and Wales under separate legislation. Under these regulations, consumers will pay a refundable deposit on certain single-use drink containers. When they return the container to a collection point, they will receive a deposit back. This system encourages recycling and reduces waste. The implementation of DRS will take place in stages. Starting April 2025, a Deposit Management Organization, DMO for short, will be appointed to oversee the scheme. On 1st of October 2027, there will be full implementation, making participation mandatory. Now, let's take a look at containers that are covered under the scheme. Included are materials, aluminum, steel, PET plastic, with sizes across 150 ml to 3 liters, and can either be for single use or short-term use. Excluded are HDPE containers such as milk bottles and containers for liquid medicines or drink additives. Next slide, please. Now let's explore the legal obligations and exemptions under the deposit return scheme. Producers such as manufacturers and importers and drink fillers must register with the DMO, pay fees, apply deposits, ensure labeling compliance, and report sales volumes. Retailers such as supermarkets and convenience stores must charge deposits, host return points unless exempted, refund customers, and store containers for recycling. It's important to note that there are certain exemptions. Small producers, which is under 5,000 units a year, must register but are exempt from fees. Next, hospitality venues can opt out for on-site consumption but must collect containers. And lastly, small urban retailers are exempted from return points. The DMO sets deposit amounts, provides guidance, manages recycling, and ensures compliances. Regulators enforce these obligations across the UK. Over to you, Arshu.
Thank you so much, Hussain, for sharing these valuable updates. I am confident this will help the participants in navigating their EPR journey with utmost confidence. Now, I invite Ms. Ipsita Roy to guide you through eco-modulation and RAM. Ipsita, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Arushi. And thank you, Hussain, for taking us through the key highlights of the UK's Packaging EPR Regulations. One of the key changes is the introduction of eco-modulation in the disposal fees that are now calculated based on environmental sustainability criteria for household packaging. This means the more sustainable the packaging, the lower the fee, and vice versa. Eco-modulation operates based on a RAG or a red, amber, green rating system. The purpose of eco-modulation is simple yet impactful. It ensures that the environmental sustainability of a producer's packaging is reflected in the fees they pay. And it also motivates producers to shift towards more environmentally friendly packaging materials and designs. packaging is considered environmentally sustainable if it is designed and manufactured to minimize its environmental impact, reduce waste generation, and improve circularity. The scheme administrator must consider one or two factors to assess the environmental sustainability for household packaging. These are reusability of the packaging or the frequency of reuse, recyclability, and the environmental impact of manufacturing, transport, and use, and the impact as waste. Now, let us take a look at how eco-modulation impacts fees with a simple illustration. Herein, we have assumed a producer who has 100 tons of plastic packaging, and the base fee per ton, as illustrated earlier, is 485 pounds. Now, if we categorize this packaging based on the recyclability and the RAG rating system, the red identifies packaging material to be difficult to recycle. Amber identifies recyclable but with challenges. And green signifies a material which is highly recyclable. As an example, I have considered 30% of the packaging material to be under the red criteria, 50% under the amber criteria, and 20% under the green criteria. Taking an illustrative of price modulation, you can see that with eco-modulation, the presence of red and amber packaging significantly increases the fees, which is up to 28% higher than in the absence of modulation. This clearly demonstrates how shifting towards greener and more recyclable packaging can lead to substantial cost savings, while also supporting sustainability goals. Next slide. Now let me take you through the Recyclability Assessment Methodology, or RAM. DEFRA has introduced RAM as a structured approach to assess packaging recyclability of household material at scale, ensuring compliance with the UK EPR requirements. The purpose of RAM is to assess recyclability, provide RAG ratings, and modulate fees based on recycling. Now, to move on, any producer has to ensure to identify the packaging material and the components based on the 10 specified materials, which are paper and board, fiber-based composite material, liquid cartons, and fiber-based composite materials, non-liquid cartons, the flexible plastics and the rigid plastics, and other materials such as steel, aluminium, glass, wood, and other packaging type. There will be an RAG rating specified for each material and submaterial, which will be red criteria will identify the difficult to recycle at scale. Amber criteria will signify recyclable with challenges, and the green criteria will signify widely recyclable with the existing infrastructure in UK. Further, the producer must assess the 5 stages of the recyclability assessment, which will be dependent on the classification, collection, sortation, reprocessing, and application. I will take you through the details in the next slide. The producer must include the recyclability output of each material and submaterial. It is very important for producers to assess the packaging material and submaterial across the 10 specified materials, assess across the 5 stages of recyclability, do the RAG rating, and then report the packaging data and pay the fees. Please note that the first reporting will be done on 1st of October 2025 for the period starting from 1st January 2025 to 30th of June 2025. Moving on. Herein, this is the methodology of RAM, which would depend upon 5 stages, that is classification, collection, sortation, reprocessing, and application. Classification signifies the type and composition of packaging in the waste stream. The next step for collection signifies the primary route of recycling, which depends upon the curbside collection, limited collection, and the compliant take-back schemes. The next step for sortation is the ability to capture and divert waste into the correct recycling stream. And this depends upon size and shape of the material, labeling sleeve, caps and closures, density and mass, and inks and color coatings. Further, the next step what producers need to ensure is for the reprocessing, which is the process of converting waste to recyclates. It depends upon the material, the base material, substances, composites, the laminations in use, additives, labels and adhesives included, inks and color coatings, closures, caps and seals, and the residue. The final and the most important step is the application, which illustrates the extent to which the recycled material replaces the virgin material in new application. This also depends upon the base material classification, substances and compositions, laminations, additives, fillers, labels and adhesives included, inks and color coatings, closures, caps and seals, and the residue. This methodology ensures that the packaging components are effectively reprocessed and reintegrated into the supply chain, ultimately supporting the circular economy. To understand the RAM methodology better, I'm going to explain you all taking flexible plastic as an example in the next slide. To classify the flexible plastic, it comprises of bags, pouches, sachets, sleeves, wrappers, lidding film or liners, crisp packets, fruit nets, plastic films which are made of different polymers such as polyolefins, uh, polyethylene, polypropylene, PVC, and the metallized films. There are certain classifications that are red categorized. For example, if the flexible packaging includes aluminum foil layer, items with density of more than 1 gram per centimeter cube, packaging film that does not contain the PE, PP or PO based multi-material, inclusion of oxy-degradable, biodegradable or compostable material, EVOH coatings which are more than 10% of the total weight, and different material label or sleeve. Move on to the next slide. This is an illustration of the plastic flexible which has been classified, and now moving on, we go towards the collection to assess the collection. The curbside collection in this case is less than 14%, so it is automatically categorized as a red criteria, unless the material can be collected via any of the compliant take-back schemes. Through this exception, the material can be classified as an amber in the amber category. Moving on to the sortation stage, the material, if it includes aluminum foil layer, it will automatically be a red criteria. If the inks and coatings are present, for example, carbon black pigment covering more than 50% of the surface area, it will be classified in the red criteria, unless any of the near infrared spectroscopy classification tests results confirm sortation. Moving on to the reprocessing. If the material contains less than 80% by weight of polyethylene, polypropylene or polyolefins, the PET, PVC, PVDC, non-PE and non-PP foamed polymer layers, oxy-degradable, biodegradable or compostable materials, aluminum foil, paper or EVOH barriers, coatings which are more than 10% of the total weight. The fillers or additives such as oxo-degradability additives, foamed thermoplastic, non-polyolefins, elastomers. Density and mass with more than 1 gram per centimeter cube, and lacquers and inks containing PVC binders. All of these materials, if present in the reprocessing, could be under the red criteria. Further, moving on to the applications, if the labels and sleeves are of a different material type, it could be categorized under the amber criteria. And polyurethane weight, if more than 3% when applied to PE and more than 5% when applied to PP. Acrylic or natural rubber latex, or if more than 5% by weight of non-PE, PP based tie layers are present, it will be under the amber category. So this is how the producers need to identify the RAG rating system for across the 5 stages of the recyclability. To summarize, Eco-modulation directly links producers' fees to sustainability, encouraging recyclable packaging. And RAM provides a structured approach to assess recyclability and categorize packaging using RAG ratings. As the UK moves towards a more sustainable circular packaging economy, it is critical for businesses to align their strategies with these new regulatory frameworks. This will not only help reduce costs but also drive long-term environmental impact. Thank you all for your time and attention. I look forward to your questions and discussions.
Thank you so much, Ipsita, for your valuable insights on eco-modulation and RAM. Now, let's proceed to the demo of EPR Manage. So I invite Mr. Abhishek Garg and Mr. Sujain Jain to present EPR Manage and share their expertise with all of us. So over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Arushi, and thank you all these speakers who have, taken out time to explain the things in detail. And thank you everybody who has joined in from various locations and taking out time to go through the EPR RAM assessment and eco-modulation. So I'll be directly delving into the solution. So we, as Ituji, have created a EPR Manage platform, which not only calculates, provides a deep down understanding of your footprint as per the UK regulation. It also does the RAM assessment under the same tool of EPR Manage, under the same platform. And I'm very delighted to explain, share with all of you that we have kind of updated our footprint assessment tool with the RAM of the as per the UK methodology. Now, how does this EPR Manage works, and what are the mechanism methodology of creating this whole platform, which is designed to solve the problem of the companies, obligated entities in UK who are today has to calculate their footprint for reporting along with RAM assessment, and also to plan their way forward in terms of computing costs, improving sustainability. So while this EPR Manage helps them automate their all the work, it also provides the forward looking approach as to where we need to work more and to ensure we can achieve the sustainability in the packaging. So there are four key structures and four layers under the EPR Manage through which it is being computed and it is being made, wherein there is a lot of data related to product sales data are taken in a specified format. And these are the input formats wherein the bill of materials and details of the usage of the packaging, the component of the packaging, their weights, their basic data are taken. And a very important thing, which is the packaging specification data. And I'm very glad to share this packaging specification data is also updated with the RAM assessment methodology and the criterias which has been explained. And we will take you through one of the examples and how the tool is working and how the EPR Manage platform is giving you insights and helping you resolve the problem of this complex methodology of RAM. And then we have also created our own in-house algorithm, which simplifies a lot of work for the brand owners and the producers for the UK EPR. This not only simplifies in terms of creating the masters of the data, it also fetch in the data which are dependent on the external sources. It also simplifies it also simplifies the life of not collecting one data for one packaging again and again, and it stores those as the masters. And it also is directly give you the estimates of your what would be your PRN fees, what would be your disposal fees, and how it can be reported. And it also helps in preparing you the auto report RPD reporting portal data. So we'll take you through those as well. So, but this is how the methodology of the EPR Manage built by A2G is been created. Please go ahead. Now to take you through one of the sample and how the RAM tool is working for assessment, we have taken two examples for simplicity. One is there is a tub, there is a plastic tub made up of HDPE material, and there is a HDPE shampoo bottle with label for assessment. And I'll ask my Sujan, please, can you get into the RAM tool Excel based input backend file?
Sujit, yeah.
Yeah. So before getting into the EPR platform tool, we wanted to take you through how the RAM assessment tool is happening and how this has been automated. Not only the 5 stages, Sujan, can you expand this? We have further divided these 5 stages and into sub stages of each stages. For example, we have kind of divided sortation into 3 further stages, reprocessing into 2, and for application there are 2 stages. And this sample example is only done for the plastic rigids category, and as I said, within rigids also it is for only HDPE. Now you can see we have already done the assessment for these 2 category and taken all the data required from the relevant sources, be it the Excel data available with the company, be it reaching out to the suppliers and the converters, or referring to the technical specifications. So we have combined and collected all this data and did this assessment, wherein right now you can see the ice cream tub has overall recyclability assessment reported as amber, while the shampoo bottle with attached label has came out to be green all round. Now we will take you through what are the input data requirement and how we have kind of simplified this particular tool. Now, you can see in this Excel sheets wherein the headers with the background of a green color signifies that these are the input data that you would be required over and above the packaging footprint data requirement, which we already have kind of we have automated that, and this is the over and above requirement for the RAM assessment, wherein these kind of data are required for assessing further. Go ahead to the next. Now, further, you can see this further expanded to include material specification data for the packaging. So we have ice cream tub, we have shampoo bottle, and we have shampoo bottle label as well. And there are multiple classification. There is supplier name, and the red related headers are the auto capturing and auto assessment report based on the algorithm and based on the backend masters, which has been created on the basis of the RAM assessment guidance manual. Go on the right side, you can see that various data related to their dimensions, their surface coverage, excuse me, their density, their thickness, their weight, their color, their transparency, all have been collected and put down as a sample to reflect and do the assessment. And at the end, in the W column or the headers with the red background, you can see that is being auto populated. Go to the next material classification specification. Yeah. Now, similarly, there are other data which are also required additionally when the material packaging component is further being broken down to their material substances, additives, layers, all those the barrier coatings has to be taken out to calculate and assess the RAM, because as we seen in examples displayed by Ipshita, it required details to the minimus level and all the specification required for assessing further for the packaging. Now you can do a similar mechanism wherein all additional data related to, let's say, carbon black is being used, whether the additives are degradable items are being used, and the system is taking care of its own. And Sujan, I would suggest show one change, do a change of PVDC or negative material, and show the attendees an impact how this tool creates change. So if right now, for example, if we are changing the bottle material type from HDPE to PVC, which is a red categorized material, then the assessment for the bottle changes to red automatically in the overall assessment tool. You can do one more change, Sujan, and the background and show how it is changing. Yeah. So yes. Over here,
if we change the ink color to carbon black, so it will again change the whole classification, wherein now the sortation category has also been turned to red.
So this is the assessment tool, and you can see it is working, and you can try and test, and you can put your inputs and see how this is being done. And this is for the plastic rigid. I'll quickly show some of the other stages assessment also. Sujan, you can go to RAM collection for once, how it is getting auto assessed, wherein the data for all the types of curbside collection data is at the background, and if the classification is done right, then it will automatically fetch. And if there is any change, so let's say, for example, change the 88% to 45%, Sujan. So it will automatically turn it into red. And if you are giving a detail of valid take back scheme, it can be converted into amber. Now go to the sortation stage. Now you can very well go in depth and see at which stage it is getting red, it is converting to amber, and what are the reason for it becoming amber or red, because that is the next step the brands would be looking forward to, as rightly explained by Ipshita. Go ahead on the right side, you can see all the criterias mentioned under the regulation, under the guidance manual has been incorporated and has been tried and been tested here. Go to the reprocessing stage, Sujan, and you can see the similar thing for the reprocessing stage. Go to the right side for the classification, and you can see how this has been sub-classified for each one stage, let's say reprocessing stage R1, and that is how you can see where at which particular stage the packaging is getting converting into amber or a red. Go to the last stage. Yeah. So this is the RAM tool, and we are going to cover all the types of packaging which are there in the guidance manual for the ease. And we are already integrated and tested with our EPR Manage tool, which was initially created. It is created to calculate the footprint, but that is now incorporated along with the RAM assessment as well. So go to the snapshot, Sujan, and just show this some of the things. So this particular EPR Manage now covers a lot of data. It has been advanced to cover your packaging footprint assessment. Go to the next overview, Sujan. Yeah. Yeah. So over here you can see the as all the obligated producers are required to report their packaging, assess their packaging footprint, report their packaging footprint, wherein each ton of packaging footprint is going to charge you cost, which is the base fees, and as well as the PRN cost of achieving the recycling targets. Now, doing it right is the prima facie to ensure that we are doing the right thing and we are not doing misreporting or underreporting, as well as incorporating RAM into it is also a complicated and a difficult task. But over here you can see this particular assessment wherein the assessment of data and computation of data is required as per the packaging RPD portal has been done, and you can see we have further gone ahead and kind of made the auto generation of the RPD reporting format from the tool itself. So once you input the relevant data into templates, this particular tool will auto generate you the RPD format, which you can easily validate and upload within the timelines on the government RPD portal. While there are many other details which you can look into brand wise, you can look into SKU wise, but another very interesting what we have created is the details of the suppliers who are providing you those packaging, and if they are providing you those packaging, whether those are red, amber, or green as per the RAM assessment. So for example, let's say we take anyone, let's say plastic bottle company, and it is red classified materials. So if you select the red classified materials, you will come to know. So they have provided the material BOPP tapes, which are classified as red because they have been assessed as red, and they are through the assessment tool. And you can definitely work with the suppliers to improve the packaging and move it into amber or to green. Move to the next, Sujay. You can also see the details at the packaging component, like what are the components are the company using as and most, whether it's pouch, it's laminates, and what kind of packaging. So you can slice, dice, you can see that the various cuts you want to, as this is very well synced with the base data and the data available, and it is in real time, it can be updated. Go to the other snapshot, Sujay. Yeah. And all of this data and all of this packaging footprint tool EPR Manage is built on and it is adopted with Open 3P standard, which is a wonderful standard to calculate the packaging footprint and have a detailed data to ensure help to do the recyclability assessment with scale and with ease, and as well as improving those packaging, which can be helpful, because to improve and to do, we need data, we need visibility to take actions on. So this tool, it helps brands to simplify their work and to advance themselves to how to they proceed towards the sustainable packaging. Thank you very much. Over to you, Arushi.
Thank you so much, Abhishek. Thank you so much, Sujan. Thank you so much for joining